with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you're going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everybody. And I it's the reason we're starting a few minutes late is because of me, so put it on the host. I'm not sure if folks have heard that the old phrase about a cobbler without shoes, but a cobbler is an old term for a shoemaker. So this morning I felt like a host of a radio show that couldn't even get my show to work, but fortunately the guests were on time. So that's the key thing. And actually in terms of the show today, the show is about not having to rely on just one person, but we need to rely on ourselves. So even if I had caught a heart attack, Brother Poole, today, the show would go on. And I don't say that facetiously because we are going to be talking about some literally life and death issues in terms of generational impact, but also our young people, our pre-K people, the next generations, the 7 generations from now. So it's really excited to kind of be on the show today to talk about Clifford Beers. And many of you may not know that Clifford Beers is over 100 years old and has been serving Connecticut families for more than a century, pertaining to developmental disorders and trauma response. And we're not going to use too much of the clinical terms, but we'll kind of define what impacts our mental health, our social health, our economic health. And Clifford Beers has been involved with that for 100 years, not to mention our mental health. And it offers over 16 programs and services really designed to improve the mental, physical, and social well-being of families and children. So we're really kind of pleased today to have Melanie Rosassi on the call, Seth Poole, Luz Ramos Ortega, and Claudette Kidd. Claudette, I do know you, so I know you're going to slap me when you see me in person. But Claudette Kidd. Melanie is the Chief Business Development Officer for Clifford Beers, and Seth Poole is the Director of Systems Care. Luz Ramos Ortega, as well as Claudette Kidd, K-I-D-D, are both community health organizers. So welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. I say that because it's tomorrow in Australia, but regardless of what time it is of the day and wherever you listen to the show, this is it's revolutionary time, it's people time, it's Clifford Beers time. Melanie, maybe kick us off and tell us a little bit about Clifford Beers, and it's really in the history of Clifford Beers, and it's really a great opportunity to kind of share your mission and the organization's missions for the next 100 and 200 and 300 years.
We hope so, Tom. First, thanks so much for having our entire team here today. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk about the work and to talk about really the shift in how we work with the community. We really do appreciate this. So as you said, we are over 100 years old. Clifford Beers was started in 1913. So, we've been around and people do know our name, but I think some of the interesting history around Clifford Beers is somewhat of where we started from with Clifford Beers as the person and the Mental Health Hygiene Association, who had really 3 main goals when they started. So it was to improve the attitudes towards mental health and the mentally ill, to improve services for people with mental illness, and to work for prevention of mental illness and promotion of mental health. And a lot of that is the foundation of Clifford Beers' work. But what I see in that is really a foundation of advocacy and a foundation for working with the community. And as our history is, I think people maybe most recognize us for some of our traditional outpatient work that we've done, and which is that clinical work, and maybe aren't as aware of how much community work that we're doing as well. As you said, we have 16 different types of services. But one of the things I love about Clifford Beers is we adjust to what the needs of the community are. In COVID, for example, really shifting and starting a warm line for people to call in and talk with us about anything that's going on with them. They didn't need to be a client. They're just community members. We offered a place for people to call and talk. And then with increased community violence, we have a community response team that's really been partnering with the New Haven Police Department as well as the Hamden Police Department to really be a response and just be there for the people and be there for the community. We've also stepped up in the community learning hub. So I think Clifford Beers, again, has a history of advocacy, has a history of showing up and staying in and adjusting to what the community needs. And we're very proud of that.
Melanie, just before I go to Seth and Luz and Claudette, and then we have a good 45 minutes. We would have had 48 minutes if I hadn't
It's okay, Tom.
Getting started. But share with people that helpline. That helpline, I think, is so important for people to know there's a telephone number that they can reach toll free. That really just to chat about this mental crisis that's going on in everybody's mind.
Yeah, it's 1-844-TALK-4CT. And it's a toll-free number, and we have people that are trained answering the calls, but they're trained listeners. They're trained in mental health first aid. They're answering, they're being there for people. They have resource books that were put together so they can help really with resources across the state. Obviously, we're most familiar with New Haven and Greater New Haven, but we've really expanded and are serving statewide. So anyone can call from anywhere in the state and really just hear about COVID resources. They could hear about just food resources, anything that someone may need. If we don't know the answer, we'll find it for you.
Tremendous. I may be calling this afternoon, so just do I have to disguise my voice if I call it every day, or do
you don't? You can call anonymously, Tom. We have lots of repeat callers.
Good one. And I half joke, but I'm lightly serious about this, folks. We need to reach out. Don't feel that you're have to suffer through this by yourself. Let's go. Seth, are you there, Mr. Poole?
Yes. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Let's go to you for a second. Seth Poole, as many of you may know, or may not know, but graduate of Wilbur Cross High School. You were inducted to one of the Football Hall of Fames?
Oh yeah, the New Haven Gridiron Club. Thanks.
New Haven Gridiron Club.
Appreciate it.
Were you a safety or were you a linebacker? I mean, you might have
safety. Wow. No, I was a linebacker and a lineman in high school and college.
Okay, so you were Husky then. You were original Husky.
Always been Husky, that's for sure.
Right.
And that's a number one of the reasons why I do a lot of this work. It's I grew up in this community, and I realized that we live in food deserts, and I personally relied heavily on corner stores for my own food growing up, and didn't have the best level of consciousness around nutrition, and until I became an athlete and started to fully dive into that.
Tremendous. Today, you're Director of Systems Care for Clifford Beers, and formerly worked at Planned Parenthood, and before that with not Albie Booth. I got football on the mind, but the Boys and Girls Club. But tell us a little bit, and you mentioned it being a lifelong resident. I would say I'm very curious about how do you see some of the biggest needs of children and families here in New Haven.
So the needs of children and families have been consistent throughout. I mean, they run concurrently with poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And facing this pandemic, they've been exacerbated or multiplied too many times for us to truly measure, because so many of our families are disconnected from the traditional ways of us contacting them, i.e. schools, number one. So it's like we really don't know what's going on with a lot of our young people. It's like when you look at data doesn't necessarily tell the story that's being experienced by a family. So we feel it's important to not paint familial needs with a broad stroke, but it's clear that people have faced deficiencies in keeping enough food in their homes, given that children are out of school and in the house all the time. And if parents or caregivers have had issues with their jobs or their employment situation, they may also have issues with maintaining the roof over the heads of their family. So, these inconsistencies in food and housing insecurity, and just keeping young people along, climbing the road, that mountain to college or to professional life after school, after high school. I see those as being, very clearly, things that are being faced by so many families throughout our community.
Absolutely. And Luz, and Claudette, before I kind of come to you, and you may even hear something that Melanie has mentioned or something that Seth has mentioned that you want to elaborate on it, and that's fine, because for radio, everyone doesn't kind of come in at the top of the hour. So if you want to feel like you want to reiterate or recapitulate or expand upon something that someone has said previously, that's even fine. But Seth, just before I go to Luz and Claudette, tell me about Clifford Beers. I mean, I'm just so pleased to kind of talk about Clifford Beers today, and we're looking forward to several more shows monthly over the upcoming months. How is Clifford Beers kind of fighting this battle? How is Clifford Beers kind of meeting some of the needs that you've articulated?
Some of the needs that we've been.
Well, Claudette, I want to give Seth a chance to kind of respond to that first. I understand you're anxious, and I love your hairdo.
Hey, Claudette's on the ground, so
you look great. Look great. And Seth, you look great too. But I mean, you don't have as much hair as Claudette or Luz. But that's a different.
I was complimenting them all on how great their hair.
Oh, they look great.
Yeah.
But Seth, from your perspective as a director of systems care, how is Clifford Beers meeting some of those needs? And then
so we're responding to the community need directly, and understanding that the aforementioned violence that we've been experiencing upticks in. It's like, we've already faced 6 murders and we're halfway through the second month of the year. These are unprecedented times and unprecedented numbers that we haven't seen in nearly a decade. So it's important for Clifford Beers and other community partners to step up and canvass these neighborhoods in which these tragic events have occurred, and check in with the neighbors. Sure that they're okay. Let them know that the warm line is a thing. The access to food and even mental health care. It's like sometimes folks just need to talk through what it is they're going through, and they're deeply appreciative of having our folks, our community health organizers, our care coordinators, in the community, answer, knocking on their doors and giving them information, because information is the key to access. And I think that increasing access is what our call has been, and we've answered it selflessly, because when it comes down to it, it's all about making yourself available to people in ways that they can contact you and feel that you're directly connected.
That's right.
And sadly enough, people are experiencing deficiencies in their wireless connections. If they don't have jobs, they're not paying for phones. So people deeply appreciate having someone knock on their door, even though a pandemic is going on. Right? We have our proper PPE and ensure proper 6-foot distancing to ensure everybody's safety. And it's important that folks see that there are entities throughout our community that are genuinely concerned with their well-being.
Absolutely. And everybody that's listening or viewing, definitely stay with us, because we're going to talk about something called Embrace New Haven, where Clifford Beers has a brand and an imprint for over 100 years. But now they've moved into some new coalition territory where they're bringing in allies. It's a multi-year kind of initiative that's going to add to their portfolios of strength, so to speak. And speaking of your portfolio of strength, Luz Ramos is here with us. Luz, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, Tom. Thank you for having us. How are you?
You don't want to have, I'm fine right now. The shows are there. I'm telling you and the whole world right now, the show helps me to remain sane as well as inspired. So people like you and hearing Seth and Luz and yourself, Luz, and Seth and Claudette and Melanie really inspire me. But tell us a little bit as you have these fancy titles of care coordinators and community outreach workers, but you're the boots on the ground. Now your boots might have high heels. I realize that maybe for the men's boots, but because you are the people on the ground making that direct contact. And so tell us about how you're meeting the needs of individuals, families, and the community in New Haven as a community care coordinator.
Well, Tom, I think that the most important thing is supporting the families and children that are in the community and that they are in need. So, the first thing that we do is, what are some of those needs? Families are, from a year ago to now, you're dealing with families needing, food. They need, children are in need of diapers. Anything that the families need, we are there to support, help with that. A year ago, we wasn't, helping families connect with internet services. Now families need internet. Some of them need educational hubs. So anything that the family is having a barrier of care with, we want to build a bridge with our providers, collaborating in the community to help meet those needs that the families are going through. And we do it, in a compassionate and caring way. Families sometimes, they need this support and they need it now. So, one family at a time, just, connecting them with all those, food, as Seth was talking about food, and Melanie, food has become such, a difficult thing for some families that don't have jobs, housing, some families needing, to connect them with places where they help them, not get evicted, so many of those things that before they were already having to deal with, but they have gotten more difficult because of COVID. Some of those things that anything that we can, helping them make appointments for mental health appointments, behavioral health appointments, so many things that we as, can help these families with. Um, it's kind of like, bringing a little bit of light in a time when it's, for some people it looks like it's very dark. And it's funny that I say that because my name is Luz, so it's kind of like you bringing light to some of them. Yeah.
Luz, tell us, you grew up in you live in the Fairhaven area, I believe.
I'm working for the Fairhaven area, but I live in the Hill.
Okay.
I've lived in the Hill for probably about 20 years. I am originally from Mexico, but I've been here over 20 years.
What drives you to kind of be involved with this? Because I guess just me hearing you talk, I can sense your passion, but also sometimes we get burned out, so I'm just curious, what kind of keeps you focused and committed to this work?
Well, I think it's my faith. That's what keeps me grounded. I've always, I have a friend, and I think you know her, Pat Boozer, Prinky.
Yes.
And she always tells me that I was doing this work before I was getting paid for it, because I've always provided resources for families. Resources for me has been something that I love to do. So anybody still now, people call me, and you don't have to work with Clifford Beers for us to provide resources. We work in the community. If I have a family that needs something and they call me, if I don't know where to send them, I'm gonna find out. And that's one of the things that for me is most important about Clifford Beers. I have a team behind me, people that support me. I couldn't do this, like you said, by myself. They're there all the time. I mean, I've been there for 8 years. Previous to this, I used to work at Cornell Scott. So at Cornell Scott in the Hill. So I've been doing this for many years, and I just, this is something that I love.
Excellent. And Claudette, just before I come to you, Melanie, maybe share again, because Seth and Luz have indicated the learning hubs and the food distribution and the personal family services. What's the best telephone number or website to go to for folks to kind of really take advantage of what's available? And for the most part, it's free. So Melanie, I just wonder if you want to give a little 15-second commercial on how to contact Clifford Beers, and how even to get your autograph. I mean, who knows? You may become a celebrity by the end of the show.
I don't know, Tom. I think Luz and Claudette are the celebrities. I would say the www.cliffordbeers.org. You can go to that website. You can see what all of our services are, but there is a special learning hub website attached there, as well as a website outlining all of our resources through Warmline. We're actually have had a huge increase in our visits Some people don't necessarily even feel comfortable calling and talking. So we have resources listed on our website. We also have the ability for people to sign up for text messages. So if you feel more comfortable with text messages, you could sign up for text messages as well. So we're trying to have a variety of options for people to feel comfortable accessing what they need. We believe families know what they need and individuals know what they need, and we're trying to find various ways for people to be able to access it. It's all about access.
Perfect. Claudette, are you there, Miss Kidd? Kidd.
Yes, I'm here, Tom. How are you doing?
Oh, I love your Embrace New Haven. Why do you have the Embrace New Haven background? I mean, is this something special just for you? I know you're
special for everyone, but it's kind of advertising as well at the same time.
Well, I like it. I like it a lot. Claudette, tell us a little bit. I mean, I'm being somewhat casual with you, and I know this. Our people view this show from throughout the world. So Claudette and I are good friends, and we've had a chance to participate in some previous programs. And I'm thinking, Claudette, just before I ask this question, that there was a press conference about a year ago embracing that and initiating and publicizing this new initiative. And you were the star of that. But as a community outreach worker, community organizer, tell us about your story. How did you get involved with Clifford Beers?
I initially got involved with Clifford Beers because I was going through a difficult time in my life. I had suffered homelessness, and it affected me really deeply, but affected my daughter even more. So I seek service through Clifford Beers with the help of other organizations, and I got the best care coordinator ever. And I learned so much from her. She was very resourceful. She knew how, I'm a pretty tough cookie to deal with when someone comes to my home, because I need to make sure that they're looking at me, they're listening to me. And Clifford Beers coordinator did all of that. They checked all the boxes and didn't ask me things until I felt comfortable. And that's what I loved about it. And I kind of fell naturally into that position because I do a lot of work in the community. So when the position came available, it was a no-brainer. I'm going to apply, and I was encouraged to apply. And while I'm working with Clifford Beers too, my main area is the Hill South, and one of my expertise areas is housing. So I bring in my housing, what I've learned through housing, and giving back to the community and having a voice for those who are invisible. I actively vocal about the housing situation and homelessness, and I continue to do that passionately.
Indeed. Tell me some more. I mean, this is your show. Melanie may think it's your show. Seth may think it's his show. Even Luz. But this is your show. Tell us some more about yourself.
Well, I came back to this country from the UK about 6-7 years ago. It just seems like yesterday sometimes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, circumstances not due to my fault, I became homeless for the first time. And it was like a shock to my system. Like, how does this happen to me? Like I've always worked, always provided, and now I'm homeless. And it was like the worst experience in my life. I had to live in a motel for a little while, and after that I went to a shelter in Fairhaven and stayed there for 6 months. But I wasn't happy with the way I was being treated as an individual. Was treated with a lack of empathy by some of the people there. I wasn't given opportunities to housing that was suitable for my needs and my daughter's needs. So I had to advocate for myself. And with advocating, I became familiar with the order in the area. And I got in touch with Junta and, of course, Mothers and Others for Justice, who I'm a part of. And they linked me up with Robin Porter. And Robin Porter was very instrumental for me to be housed because she followed up on everything. She called the shelter, asked all the right questions, and like I figured to myself, I have to give back too. So that's when I just started advocating for homelessness. But in the midst of all that, with Robin being very active, I guess they wanted to get rid of me, so they so they housed me pretty quickly after that. And since then, that's how I got in touch with Clifford Beers, because like once you're housed, people think that that's it, but it isn't it, because like you've been dealing with stuff, your adrenaline's going all the time, you're sort of like panicking and in a state of stress and depression, and now you're housed and you're like, okay, and you de-stress, and then all the things you've been suffering all that time comes down on you like a weight. And then like if you kind of fall into it, you can fall into a deep depression and just stay away from everyone. But I chose not to. I chose to seek the help for myself and my daughter. It was very difficult for my daughter with school and everything and the switching up, and she felt it more than me. So through DCF, the help of them, they referred me to Clifford Beers, and Clifford Beers has been a life savior in a sense. So me working for them is a natural thing, and I'm so appreciative that they hired me. So I love the work that I'm doing, and like Lou said, it's all about the community and their needs, listening to them and following up with them, keeping your word to what you're saying, you know, because if you don't, then you're going to fail them. And being part of the community myself, I know how I would want to be treated. So I treat the community in the same way, with respect and dignity.
Excellent. Do unto others. And thanks so much for lifting up our state rep, Robin Porter. Melanie, let's go to you, because we had this logo in back of Claudette, Embrace New Haven. And you'll tell me more about it, but my guess is that it does relate about how Clifford Beers is working with and potentially other organizations and providers to address the needs of families. So draw the dots together, Melanie, between Embrace New Haven, Clifford Beers, and what's cooking. And then we'll probably open it up. And I'm sure after Melanie speaks, Seth and Luz and Claudette, you might want to even share some additional comments about really the Embrace New Haven vision.
I'm glad that you talked about the dots. The team's probably sick of me saying it, but it's to me, it's all about connecting the dots. We do have a 7-year grant from the Center for Medicaid Innovation at CMS. For the grant, the population that we are concentrating on is 0 to 21 and pregnant women up to 1 year postpartum living within the city of New Haven that are eligible for Medicaid and CHIP. So we are really trying to make sure that services are most easily accessible. So hearing Claudette's story is a lot what it's about. It's for the first time the system being set up in a way. Right now, care coordination is really funded through grants. And part of this work is that it will also now be funded starting in July 1st, 2022 by Medicaid. So for the first time, there's going to be this blending of funding from, we have private philanthropists that fund us. We have some state agencies that fund us, Department of Children and Families or Department of Developmental Services or Office of Early Childhood. They'll give us some funds for care coordination, but there really hasn't been anything sustainable. So, I know Medicare has picked up mental health services only in 1970. So now for the first time, Medicaid is going to be picking up care coordination. We're extremely excited about it because what I love about care coordination is you don't have to label anyone with a diagnosis. And it truly is community treatment. It is families know what they need, but sometimes they just don't know how to get it. So we want to set up a system with Embrace New Haven. So Tom, if I said, hey, I need my, pipes fixed, anybody? And you're like, yeah, I know somebody. Why don't you call so-and-so? So it's being able to connect families with whatever they need and us being aware of that and providers really working together and connecting the dots. New Haven is really service rich. And there's lots of initiatives that are going on, but how do we continue to work together to get families what they need and most accessible and the easiest possible way? We're working to try to reach as many people as we can through the schools. So we're really working. New Haven Public Schools is a great partner to us in general. We're already in 12 of the 44 New Haven Public Schools, but we meet with them on a weekly basis. We've been meeting with them even more so with COVID. And if one of the things we think we've learned from COVID is that schools are the center of our communities. So how do we help to build this system so we can get to families and help them get what they need, so every member of the family can be successful. And we have these community health organizers, Luz and Claudette being two of them, but we have 8, and they're assigned by neighborhoods.
Are they mad at me that we haven't invited them, or should we get them on a follow-up show? I don't
Some
know.
of them are on the call listening in right now.
They're getting paid, but we need to see their faces.
We will. We have 4 more shows, so we're going to get everyone's going to get their turn to be on and talk about the work.
Good.
Yeah.
So Melody, give me a few more community benefit examples or person benefit examples, because this is really helpful for people to know that their needs are out there. Yes, there have been attempts to solve the needs, but I'm really optimistic about what this initiative is all about. And just give us a few more, if you can, real life examples where how the benefits, if I'm a prospective recipient, how I'm going to, be blessed with these resources.
So care coordination is about getting families or getting individuals whatever they need. And there's certain providers that have particular specialties in areas that they can be helpful to families. And maybe even these providers right now are smaller and they don't bill Medicaid. So how can they get involved? It's really going to be that we're working out a system so we can work with all of the providers, big and small. Everyone can be involved and be able to benefit from this. We want providers, big and small, to stay viable. So everyone can have services from who they feel the most comfortable with. Like Claudette said, it's hard when people come into your home, and you want to know that they're genuine and you want to be comfortable with them. And we want to make sure that people have the most choices possible. So we're working to set up a system or to set up something in a way that will help us to make sure that families get to choose.
So give examples of providers. Just list a few names, because when you say providers, people make it kind of wash through their mind.
I would say one provider we work with in particular is Family Centered Services in New Haven. And they provide care coordination, but again, they're a smaller provider. They only get grants. They're not set up to bill Medicaid. So we want to make sure that they're in it with us because they do great work. And families love the work that's being done there. So we want to set it up in a way that although maybe they can't directly bill Medicaid, they will be able to be a part of the system, because Clifford Beers is setting up in a way that we'll be able to subcontract with all of the different smaller providers. We want everyone included. We want everyone to be a part of this, because the more choice that people have, the better. And this goes to long-term sustainability of care coordination. We believe care coordination works. This is our second grant from CMS. The first one was Wraparound New Haven. And we showed some great outcomes and cost savings through Wraparound New Haven, but unfortunately, it wasn't a grant requirement for the state to have sustainability for it. And this time there is, and that's where those Medicaid dollars are coming in.
And just maybe one more example of a provider, because I hear you saying you're strengthening the muscle, the financial, the service delivery muscle of these, of the folks, your allies that are out. Just give a shout out to maybe one more provider name that might come to mind.
I would say other providers that do care coordination. Some are even the larger providers as well. We're hoping to have partners in Hill Health and Yale and everyone that is serving our families, where, we want big, we want small, we want medium. We want everybody at the table. We want our table to be as big as possible.
And that's why I wanted to, I'm glad you shared that. I'm intentionally push you on that point so people can see it's really the universe. We're going to make this a harmonious universe and not just one island or one big chief, but everybody to kind of have an equal part in participating in this. Seth, let me jump to you again. And I really appreciate, Melanie, what you just shared, because I think people can see better now what's involved with Embrace New Haven. But Seth, talk to me about why residents, why my family, why my friends, why my church, why my gang of thieves, so to speak, should embrace New Haven.
So Tom, so many families have experienced what it's like to be waitlisted by an organization. You know, it's like organizations are providing great services, like Melanie said, but so many of our organizations reach their capacity and have to create wait lists for families. This would essentially, eliminate the wait list from the equation. Get services and resources to families in a timely fashion, because we all know, what happens when basic needs such as food aren't met. People do desperate things to fulfill needs when they're backed into a corner. And this particular moment in time has all of us backed into a proverbial corner. So understanding that, families of lesser means may not have, the ability to wait for us to respond. So when we create this, network of supporters, of providers of resources within our community, it eliminates that, or it aims to eliminate that from the equation. So as soon as a family says, I need food, within, minutes or hours, where we have the ability to provide, a gift card or, or a basket of food from one of the local food pantries or something to that effect. So it's, it's about centering families. Like Melanie said, it's like when we realize that we have a bunch of resources and we don't necessarily have the intensity, the level of intensity with which a family is in need of one particular service or entity or resource, and putting them in that position and listening and saying it's okay for you to acknowledge your vulnerability, acknowledge a need, and feel comfortable enough to speak freely to a care coordinator or any point of contact throughout our community in order to have the needs of families and children met. That's the aim. That's the goal. And we can only do this together,
And I hear you talking about efficiency and speed of service delivery, and really the one-to-one, if not the one-to-one, the personal contact. We have about 15 minutes or so, and Luz and Claudette kind of weigh in, and let's just open it up for general discussion, because this Embrace New Haven, I love the phrase Embrace New Haven. For me, it connotes love and nurturing and just us linking arms, and certainly in this day and time, separate from COVID, if we can ever even think about things separate from COVID, but even in this COVID endemic, embracing and showing love and nurturing one another is so vitally important. Luz, any thoughts that kind of cross your mind as you hear Seth and Melanie and Claudette kind of share?
When Seth was sharing, I was just thinking about, like, for example, when someone is trying to reach one of these providers, we a lot of the times have to step in and help, because, we can provide the resource, but sometimes, especially now that there's so much need, like I can name an example. For me, I spoke to someone and they needed to reach Junta, and they were calling, and of course, they have so many people calling, so I kind of acted like a bridge with the family and one of the people that I know at Junta, and we kind of connected them. I have to do the same thing with the community action sometimes, especially with the language barrier. I'm bilingual, so if
Good.
there's a family that needs help in their native language and I can be there to connect them, I will do that. So in that, that's very important, because sometimes they provide flyers in English that the family is trying to, but they don't understand. So if you have to ask that provider, can you provide one in Spanish? That's another thing that we can also do. There's so many examples that I can give to you. I know someone that can help families in need of, like, if they need, like, diapers or anything. The diaper bank, if they're calling the diaper bank and they're not getting anyone, we'll step in and say, well, let me make that phone call with you.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we want the family to be the one that knows how to navigate the system better than us. We want them to be the person that can advocate better for themselves. So, but if at the time they need to have us, kind of hold their hand and go through the process, we will do that, because it's important. It's important for them to connect with what they need at the time.
Excellent. Claudette, any thoughts?
Yeah, listening to Luz talk, it made me think about a parent who we got in touch with regarding the Learning Hub. She wanted her child placed in the Learning Hub, but she was on 2 calls at once. She had Comcast on the other line. Her problem at the time was she didn't have any internet connection. She'd been waiting over 2 weeks, and they're telling her another 2 weeks to get internet connection. So she's trying to explain, well, her kids need it for school and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm listening to this. So I said, ask for the supervisor. So they asked for the supervisor. Supervisor's on another call. I was like, okay, then take the person's name. Got the person's name. I said, ask for a manager. Manager's on another call. So I said, well, tell them you're going to report them to the Better Business Bureau, that they're not providing good service and you're paying over $80 for it, which was surprising to me because there's a service out there where they can pay, is it $10 a month? And she wasn't aware of that. So at the same time, someone came back from Comcast, said, okay, then we'll be out there today. And I also gave her information to sign up to get the $10 a month internet to save her money. So that was something unexpected, and it was resourceful on our part. And that's what we do. We try and pick up the pieces when they fall down and help the parents, even though that wasn't what I had initially called her about, but there was a need and we took care of that need. And at the same time, I believe Seth mentioned about schools and community. I'm in the process of linking up with Riverside School with Principal Derek Stevenson to create that link into the community. And every opportunity that I see, I grab a hold of it and I run with it because it's an opportunity to help a family out there. And that's what we do.
Excellent. Melanie, if I can come back to you, we have about 12 minutes. What's cooking is there's another show at 12 o'clock on WNHH 103.5 and FM. And if I can just make a plug, no other city in the United States has a grassroots, but also I think international and global stations, such as community stations, such as WNHH 103.5. So please check it out. Listen to our 12 o'clock host. Go to it often. But Melanie, I wanted to share a little bit about this. Is not an overnight situation. This is not come and go. It's a 7-year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but 7 years. I want people to know that you guys are in it for it's not a one-off. You're in it for the long haul. So kind of chat about that, and then we'll go to some closing remarks.
Yeah, we are definitely in it for the long haul. I think since the day we found out that we received this opportunity, I've been thinking about how can we sustain it. So right now we're testing it in the community of New Haven, but our goal is definitely to prove this concept so it can be spread statewide. There's a lot of bigger state initiatives that are going on as well that we're working to connect the dots onto. DCF's Families First legislation, which is also funding early intervention programs, which care coordination is considered to be an early intervention program and is even listed on their list of programs. There's substance use grants, federal grants that are going on. We're parts of federal grants where we're hooking up our adult mobile crisis with the children mobile crisis, which is also another area that we're over as well. We're trying to connect any initiatives that are happening with schools. It really is for the first time. It is it's a systems reform grant. So Clifford Beers is a community-based organization who has tons of experience doing direct service work. But we also do advocacy, and we fight for systems to be better. And that's part of what this opportunity is. It's let's put our heads together. Let's look at what all the resources are, what's missing, who's not at the table, whose voice isn't here. How else can we build this system so it's easier for families? There's less stigma around asking for help. Some of it is around that. People don't want to be viewed as needing help. We still live in a society where, people are told to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And it's about destigmatizing asking for help, destigmatizing needing help, and setting up a system that isn't filled with red tape. You can hear from Claudette and Luz and Seth and myself that a lot of our goal is that our staff works to sort of cut through that red tape, and to know how to cut through that red tape, and then to set up for long-term sustainability and connecting statewide initiatives and city initiatives and school initiatives and local communities together, with families and individuals in the middle. It's really about doing what's right for families, because all families need different things. I very frequently think of that picture of equity versus equality. And that, equity is if you give everybody the same level bench to stand on, but equality is that, some people are going to need a couple more benches to get up to the same level to see over it. And I think that this initiative is about figuring out what families need. So if a family needs 3 boxes to look over that same fence, we're going to help them get 3 boxes. And that's what this is about. Working together to get families what they need, because ultimately it makes it, it might sound hokey, but it makes it a better world that we're living in.
Yes, and Melanie, just as an example, if I'm a returning citizen, someone I joke and kid with my friends offline about anyone that's currently in prison and gets released, they've received a state scholarship, and there's a lot of learning in the system, sometimes negative learning. But if I'm a returning citizen, I could call you in terms of how do I get situated. If I've just been released from prison, this would be an opportunity for me to call you guys and get some help.
And like I said, if we don't know the resource, we'll find it.
Good.
We'll find it. Reentry is its own specialty, definitely. Coming from a person that has worked in the judicial branch for a long time, reentry is its own special piece. But we will figure it out. We'll help. We're in it with families. So if there's something they need, we'll help them figure it out. We do not profess to know everything about everything, because you just can't, but we will be in it with you, and
Excellent.
We'll figure it out.
Excellent. Luz, let's go to you, and then Seth, and then Claudette for closing remarks, because we have about 6 or 7 minutes. Harry will play the music, and that way we'll know that we're being kicked off. So he's not being rude, but I guess push the envelope every show. We're going to talk until he kicks us out. And Harry, we love you, our station manager. But Luz, and he says 4 minutes, but who knows? That might be. We're going to seize the time. Luz, go for it.
No, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity, and like I said before, it's what we do is what we know, and it's what we want to continue to do. Is continue to help the families that are in need and some help in any way that we can. And I think I have the best team to do this with. I'm very happy to be working with the Embrace INCK New Haven program. And like I said, I've been here for about 8 years, and I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to many more of these conversations. So have a great
Excellent. Seth? Mr. Poole.
Yes, I must piggyback off of that. Thank you so much for the platform.
Mr. Poole, I'm going to interrupt you.
Oh, go ahead. What's up?
Give a shout out to Geraldine. I think for Black History Month, let's just lift up her spirit right now.
So thank you so much. I deeply appreciate that. So Geraldine Poole is my grandmother. She taught in the city of New Haven for north of 35 years. And in her retirement became a volunteer at Southern Connecticut State, her alma mater, where she received her master's degree. And, you know, my grandmother's approach to just, it was literally Christian, you know, to lift up what Lou said, her faith is what is her driver. You know, my grandmother's faith was my foundation of understanding, you know, what our role and responsibility is to community. It's like when you see somebody dealing with, you know, with a you know, shortfall or some type of issue in the community, you have the ability to help. It only makes sense. It is our duty as, you know, human beings to lend a hand where we see fit. And I want to encourage everybody in the tradition of my grandmother to pay it forward. You know, it's like a random act of kindness goes very, very far when you think about it in terms of what it means to the people receiving it. So, you know, thank you so much for invoking the name of my grandmother, because, you know, she, you know, we all know she passed away on Juneteenth, 2019, and how appropriate that, you know, she lived her 91 years of life in service to our community. And that lives on through my efforts and the efforts of our team as well. So
excellent. And Claudette, just before I come to you, and I can say this, I think everyone can kind of sense I'm kind of footloose and fancy for the show. But Geraldine was a lovable person, but don't get on her bad side. Do not get on her bad side. And I say that's what tough love, real love is all about. That's what love is all about.
I am the product, the living embodiment of Geraldine Poole's tough love. You believe that?
Claudette, please, let's close this out. And again, Harry will play the music any moment now.
Okay, Clifford Beers, Embrace New Haven. We're about equality and equity for all. So it's not about breaking the systems. We're going to change the systems so that it can work for everybody and everybody has a fair chance in everything. And that means all communities coming together and working together to make that change.
Excellent. 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 I just want to thank all of you. And Melanie, we're back again, I believe, sometime in March.
We are March 22nd, I believe.
And please kind of tune in and just really appreciate Clifford Beers for allowing us and do this opportunity. Beth and Luz and Melanie. Claudette, thank you so much. You know what that means.
Thanks, we appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.
I'm gonna roll with what I'm giving. So man fishing this new edition, filling positions, looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you're going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you're gonna be counting blessings. And working open curtain because they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up, fall down.